I don't know if you guys seen this, but two channels over the weekend and over the international break have kind of made this topic and talked about it. One of them was United Stand, and then I think Sky Sports Saturday Social did similar, ranking the best managers Manchester United have employed post Sir Alex Ferguson. So I've seen 2 or 3 lists now, and I can't lie with you, chat, I'm not 100% feeling them. I specifically paid attention to the Saturday Social one, and it was a little annoying because I'm seeing a Chelsea fan do it and a West Ham fan do it. I think you need a Man United fan. I know the United Stand did it, but this is going to be my version of it. So I'm going to do my top 5. The rules: no interim managers. That's the only rule. So Ranić is not in the equation. Carrick is not in the equation. Ryan Giggs is not in the equation. I think that's it. Those are the 3. They are not being considered here. The 5 contenders are Louis van Gaal, David Moyes, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Jose Mourinho, Erik ten Hag. That's the order, or that's the 5 that I'm going to be picking from and ranking. At number 5, as in the worst of these 5, for me, this is very, very simple here. It's David Moyes. It has to be David Moyes. And look, it's not completely his fault, right? He had the almost impossible job of having to follow up from Sir Alex Ferguson, replacing a manager who had been in the job 26 years. A guy who had become, at that point, basically the club. Sir Alex was literally the club. He was in charge of everything. Nobody at the club was bigger than him. And the respect that everyone had for him, the control that he had, the power that he had, it was an impossible job, basically, replacing Sir Alex. Regardless, obviously, David Moyes was actually probably the 4th choice for Man United. They interviewed Klopp. They spoke to Pep. They wanted to get Jose before Bobby Charlton stepped in, or Sir Bobby Charlton, I should say. The job ended up going to David Moyes. In that season, Man United went from a team that won the league under Sir Alex with 89 points? I think Man United won the league in 2012-13? Correct. 89 points. They won the league that season. The following season, under David Moyes, they finished 7th on 64 points. So a 25-point decline from one season to another. No players left, bar Paul Scholes, who retired. One player was brought in the summer in Marouane Fellaini, and another player was brought in the form of Juan Mata. The football in the beginning was exciting. I remember the first game against Swansea, and we were thinking, wow, this is we can still have something here. We still had great players, right, in terms of at least the names. But quickly, it became very, very clear that the job was too big for David Moyes. And the expectation and the turnaround needed to replace Sir Alex in a season. And what made it even more difficult for David Moyes, right, was the fact that Sir Alex left the club the same summer that David Gill decided to step down as well, too. So replacing Sir Alex and David Gill, who already had a great connection, a great relationship, and the way they worked was so good together. In came David Moyes for the greatest manager in British history. And in came Ed Woodward, a banker, a guy who was basically given the job on the basis that he helped broker the deal for the Glazers to even buy the club. No experience working in terms of football. Financial, economics, brilliant. Footballing-wise, he's a novice. So you're replacing Sir Alex and David Gill, and in the same summer, you're bringing in Ed Woodward and David Moyes. Relatively, at this level, novices in their own respective jobs. And look, they went for Bale, they went for Thiago, they went for Cesc Fabregas. David Moyes will tell you that summer he went for everybody. At the end of the summer, he ended up buying Marouane Fellaini on deadline day for about, I think 5 million more than he could have bought him 2-3 weeks ago, because it was quite clearly a panic buy meant to appease the fan base because they had failed in getting everybody else. The season was an absolute disaster. It was basically the coldest reality check United fans had ever got. Massive losses at home, 3-0 losses back-to-back, City and Liverpool at home. Who else beat us that season? I think Norwich beat us for the first time at home. West Brom beat us for the first time at home. Basically, we were breaking records left, right, and center for losses at home to teams we basically never lost to, all under David Moyes. And again, I say he's a bit unlucky because it was clearly just too big of a job for him. And he was having to deal with egos, right? Guys like Vidic and Rio, and they're probably looking at David Moyes thinking, who are you telling us to watch tapes of Phil Jagielka? It's a tough job for David Moyes, man. And also, let's be real, right? The team won the league with 89 points the season before, but it was a team on the decline. Rio was on the decline, as seen by the fact he joined QPR a year later and then retired after that. Vidic was clearly on the decline. Evra actually went and had a career revival at Juve a year later, but Giggs was clearly on the decline. Van Persie was, that season we had with him was injury free. After that, we never got a fully fit Van Persie again. It was tough, man. It was really tough for David Moyes, man. That team won the league, but really it was a Sir Alex and Robin Van Persie carry job. Michael Carrick played really well, but it wasn't a great Man United team, for example. So it was tough for him, but at the same time too, you can only judge on what he gave us. So for me, David Moyes is the worst Man United manager post Sir Alex Ferguson. At number 4, I'm going to go for Louis van Gaal. Now, Louis van Gaal was in the job a year longer than David Moyes was. He was obviously the successor to David Moyes. And Louis van Gaal, right? One thing I'll say about him is more so than anybody on this list, managed to get Man United playing the way he wanted to get them playing, a set style of play, a footballing identity more than any other one of the managers, more than Jose, more than Oli, more than Ten Hag, more than David Moyes. However, the problem is that the footballing philosophy and the way he got us playing was absolutely boring as hell. Oh my God, man. This was the manager where under him, you first started hearing for the first time in probably decades, pre-Sir Alex, you'd have to go back, of fans chanting at the team at Old Trafford, attack, 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 because it was so slow, it was so pedestrian, it was so lackluster. Under Louis van Gaal, we went a whole month without basically scoring a goal. I think we went a whole month without winning at home. It was crazy. And I see Ollie's Wheel here say Van Gaal had the worst squad by a mile. I disagree. He had the worst squad because he basically stripped it down to how bad it was. Van Gaal took over from Moyes, and immediately he said, Vidic, you're no longer needed. Evra, you're no longer needed. Rio, you're no longer needed. Giggs retired, come be in my backroom staff. Nani, you're gone. Welbeck, you're gone. Chicharito, you're gone. Rafael, you're going to last a year, but you're gone too. Kagawa, you're gone. Anderson, you're gone. Cleverly, you're gone. He basically ripped apart the entirety of Sir Alex's title-winning team, bar RVP, bar Rooney, by Valencia, and Smalling. The rest of them were, and De Gea. The rest of them, he replaced them with. And in his first season, broke the bank on Radamel Falcao on loan, Angel Di Maria, for a British record fee at the time, Daley Blind, Marcos Rojo, Luke Shaw, and Ander Herrera. Those were all in his first summer. And people saying Van Gaal had the worst squad ever, people are forgetting that in his first season, the amount of graphics that Bleacher Report were making, or Goal were making, or 442 were making of, oh, stop Man United if you can, because they had Mata, Di Maria, Rooney, Van Persie, Falcao, Ander Herrera. Who else am I missing? Am I missing anybody else? It was on paper a crazy team. I'm talking about his first season. We're not talking to Martial and Depay yet. The team that United built on paper under Van Gaal was supposed to be a super team. And we killed QPR. I remember the first game under them. After that, I remember he went into a game against Leicester, the very following game. And he played Falcao and Van Persie up front. He played Rooney in behind. He played Mata on the right. And he played Di Maria on the left. On paper, stacked. And we go up 3-1 away to Leicester. 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, we lose 5-3. We never see Louis van Gaal go that attacking again. Because from then on, Di Maria became basically a player. He just tried fitting into different areas. He played him striker, central midfield, attacking mid, wing. We saw Ashley Young basically get a complete career revival because under David Moyes and in his last year under Fergie, he was basically dead in the water. Van Gaal brought him back from nowhere and made him his left winger. And he actually had a lot of success that first season. He basically revived Marwan Fellaini's career at Man United because under Moyes, every fan wanted him out. Daley Blind became his left back. Valencia started becoming a right back under Van Gaal heavy, and Van Persie started being on the decline. That first season, around the halfway point, we were struggling, and then Van Gaal completely changed things up, played Herrera, Carrick, and Fellaini in midfield with Juan Mata on the right, Rooney up front, and Ashley Young on the left, and we went under this little period at Man United, right, where actually under Van Gaal, we probably played the most enjoyable football I've seen for about 6 or 7 games. In that period, we went to Anfield. And for the first time in my life, even including Sir Alex, we dominated Liverpool at Anfield. Dominated them. That's the game where Juan Mata scored 2. We played them off the park. I've never seen United at Anfield play that well. We beat Manchester City 4-2. We beat Spurs 3-0. We go to we beat Arsenal. We go to Chelsea. And at that point, we're starting to gain crazy momentum. And we're even thinking, oh, if we beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, we could do something. Obviously, we lost. But in that period, we were playing unbelievable under Van Gaal. And we're all starting to think, okay, finally, we're starting to see something under him. Let's build off that into the next season. And maybe we can challenge for the title. Because the way we ended that 2014-15 season, we ended it really, really well. What happens the following season? Di Maria is sold because he's unhappy. Falcao, we don't renew his contract. And that partnership of Young and Fellaini with Herrera in midfield and Carrick and Mata off the right and Rooney up front, we completely rip it apart. All the momentum we had going forward with that group, we completely rip it apart. In comes a past washed it Bastian Schweinsteiger. In comes a Morgan Schneiderlin who is completely out of his depth. In comes a Matteo Darmian who is probably the most lackluster, uninspiring signing Man United have ever made. And in comes, after trying to sign Thomas Muller the entire window, a relatively unproven kid from France named Anthony Martial. Oh, and we signed Memphis Depay, who the previous summer had been Van Gaal's wonder kid off the bench for the Dutch. Bro, it's a disaster. Bear in mind, like I said, he's sold so many attacking players at Man United that our squad is already bare bones, like so thin. We have major injury problems. Like I said, we go that December period where like we get bounced by everybody, crash out of the Champions League group stage, and people give Van Gaal a lot of credit for giving chance to the young players. The only reason he gave chances to young players, bro, is because he sold so many players and his squad got so many injuries that he had no choice but to go to a Marcus Rashford. For me, I give very little credit to Van Gaal for bringing in Rashford into the fold, because let me tell you what had to happen for Rashford to get a chance. Rooney had to go down. Martial had to go down. James Wilson, I think, either went down or was on loan that year. Bro, Will Keane that week went down in a game against Shrewsbury Town, leaving the only striker fit for Van Gaal to call upon against Midtjylland, Marcus Rashford. He had no other choice. Who else was he going to play? Of course he went to Marcus Rashford. Everybody else was injured. Fair play to him. He gave Fosu Mensah a chance. He gave McNair a chance. He gave Blackett a chance. He gave Donald Love a chance, I remember. He gave kids a chance. But, bro, the football was awful under Van Gaal. Honestly, so boring. The signings weren't great either. Yes, he won the FA Cup, but the failure to make top four that second season. One thing I'll give Van Gaal, I think against big teams, he really game planned well. He won twice at Anfield in the Premier League. Both seasons he won against Klopp and against Rodgers. He beat City numerous times. He got some results against Chelsea. He got some results against the big teams. But against the small teams where United really had to kind of attack and be exciting, he couldn't do it, bro. And I feel like there's a lot of revision around his time at United. For me, that second season was awful, bro. It was awful. And for me, that's why I got him at fourth. Yeah, he talks like he rebuilt United. I'm telling you, bro. Yes, give him credit for playing young players, but he only played them because everybody else got injured. Of course he had to play them. He couldn't not play them. What, he's going to play with 10 players? Rooney said he was the best manager he played under, I think, right. Rooney said he was the best coach he played under. And I agree with him when he says that. Because in terms of like tactics and in terms of probably work on the training ground, Sir Alex often didn't run his own training sessions. Often, it's what's his name, Carlos Queiroz running them, or René Molestein running them. It's not a Steve McLaren would run them. Sir Alex is really the manager. Van Gaal is a coach. Van Gaal on the training ground is very specific. And one thing I didn't like about Van Gaal whatsoever, and I think most United fans didn't like it, he was too particular. The best managers in the world, in my opinion, build their teams around their best players. Van Gaal, it was the opposite. He builds his teams around his system, and the players have to fit the system. Doesn't matter whether you're the best player in the world or not. If you're Di Maria, you have to fit my system. I'm not going to build my system around you. For me, it's not the kind of football I enjoy, and I think Man United fans, we like a more exciting, free-flowing kind of game. And Van Gaal was never able to give us with that. That's the reason why he fell out with every single South American, bro. Because South Americans don't like being shoehorned into positions, shoehorned into systems. They like to express themselves. So that's the reason why I got Van Gaal at fourth, man. At third, I have Erik ten Hag. And this is where I disagree with a lot of the guys on Saturday Social. I think at that point, they had already said Ollie. I have Erik ten Hag here. Now, after his first season, genuinely, you could have made the argument that he was in contention for first. But after last season, and the way he started this year as well, too, and the transfers that he's overseen, for me, I think Erik ten Hag is third, bro. Look, the first season under ten Hag was amazing in terms of like, no one came into that year with any expectation. None. We were all thinking, bro, we might be looking at another sixth place finish. And judging off the first few games of the year, lost at home to Brighton 2-1 opening game. Second game of the season, we get destroyed by Brentford. It's looking awful, bro. The fact that we clawed it back to finish third that year, have a pretty good defensive record, and win the Carabao Cup, breaking our 7-year trophy duck. It was a good season. However, the biggest issue with Ten Hag in that first season was, okay, we're clearly seeing Erik ten Hag is sacrificing his footballing principles to get short-term results because he doesn't have the team that he wants. And we all kind of accepted it. We all held our hands up, said, okay, with the players he has, with De Gea in goal, with Ronaldo up front at his current age, he's never going to be able to play the way he wants. We have to fund him even more. We're okay with that. Bear in mind, while all this is happening, Erik ten Hag has fell out of Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the greatest club legends, and we all backed Erik ten Hag. Erik ten Hag has lost 7-0 to Anfield, the most embarrassing result in Man United history, and we all backed ten Hag over the players. He lost 6-3 to Manchester City. He lost 4-0 to Brentford, and we're still backing Erik ten Hag. The second season, though, me in particular, I said, okay, I backed you that first year. Now, I need to see something tangible in terms of the way you want to play. And from 3 games in, you could tell, bro. The football is not improving whatsoever, man. It's still the same, all over the place, unorganized, chaotic style of play. And last year, right, people will say injuries. Injuries, man. Honestly, teams get injured in the league. The results and the way we were playing last year for Man United was absolutely diabolical. It's the worst I've seen since I've started watching United. I started watching United in 2006. I've never seen it as bad as last year. And yes, people will say The players weren't great. Yes, people will say he had a lot of injuries. Yes, people will say, oh, the structure he was working under, it's impossible for any manager to succeed. Yeah, I'm not asking any manager to win the league under the Glazers. But to finish 8th, that's something even David Moyes couldn't do. That's something Ole didn't even do in his second season. Mourinho never did that. Van Gaal never did that. To finish 8th, the way we were playing and the way we were getting popped by teams and the embarrassment of the results, getting crashed out of the group stage with 1 win. My God, chat. 4-0 to Palace. Oh my God, chat. And then the way he started this season as well, too, doesn't help him whatsoever. But for me, the biggest issue with Ten Hag, right? And people will say, look, it's not his signings. The board were signing them for him. I don't buy it. And as bad as other managers bought players, like they bought unsuccessful signings, Ten Hag's are even worse, bro. 70 million for Casemiro at his age. 80 million for Antony. 60 million for Mason Mount, where he clearly had no real role in this team. The signing of Onana, which was his guy, that really hasn't worked whatsoever. Let's not forget about Val Weghorst. Oh my God, man. Maybe the worst player I've ever seen be a consistent starter for Man United. It's been bad, bro. For me, I got him at 3rd, bro. I got him at 3rd. The first season saves him because we got 3rd. We had some big wins. Took us to Wembley twice. Won the cup 1 time. No one expected us to finish 3rd. I give him credit for that. And after that first season, he was competing for 1st. But how bad last year was and how bad this season has started, for me, 3rd is the highest I can put him. 3rd is the highest I can put him, man. And I get the FA Cup win. Again, for me, he can't go above 3rd, man. He can't. It's impossible for me. 2nd, I have Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. This is where I got Ole. Some United fans would have him 1st. Damn it, a lot of United fans would have him 4th or 5th. He didn't win a shit. Didn't win a single trophy in his 3 years basically here, which probably is what stops him from being number 1. Because in terms of actually having an idea and a clear path and a clear future of how he wanted United to be, Ole was probably the best of any Man United manager that we've hired. The football wasn't great. I mean, some people will say it's the most exciting we've had at United. If that's saying so, then I go back to my favorite saying. In the land of the blind, the man of one eye is king. I didn't think the football under Ole was great. Yes, it was largely precedented on transition football. And against the big teams, it allowed us to go to Etihad and pick up results. It allowed us to beat Liverpool a few times. We beat Liverpool in the cup. It allowed us to get results against Chelsea numerous times. Spurs, PSG, obviously. It allowed us to get some results. The counterattack, it was lethal under Ole. And look, we finished under him. Let's look at that first season. The first 6 months he was there. Obviously, we finished the season in like 6th. But if we go just based on Ole's time, I think we would have finished 4th under just what Ole managed us. He went on like a 14-game winning run. Obviously beat PSG. It was crazy. Ole's at the wheel. The vibes are great. But the wheels eventually fell off. We came 6th, but we were thinking, okay, bro, we did really well under Ole. Let's see what he can do in that first season. The first season, it doesn't start great, right? He makes some big signings in Maguire, Wan-Bissaka, and Dan James, which for me, all 3 of them were bad signings. Around January time, we're floundering around 7th. Bruno Fernandes comes in, saves our season, as does Pogba and Rashford returning. COVID ball. Man United are popping teams under at COVID, right? And we come 3rd. And we go to the semifinals of the Europa League. And again, we're thinking for the first time, really, okay, under this manager, maybe we can build on this. The football is not great. I reiterate this. Counterattacking, it's great. But it's still not really amazing football. But let's back him. And this is where I give Ole credit. We didn't back him whatsoever. He wanted Jadon Sancho a summer early. We didn't get it for him. Instead, we got him Donny van de Beek in a position where probably his best player already played. We got him Alex Telles in a position where one of his best players already played. We signed Edinson Cavani on a free, which actually turned out to be a decent signing. And I think that was it. Not a great signing. But still, he kind of turns our season around after a slow start, getting knocked out of the Champions League, losing 6-1 to Spurs. I was one of the people saying, I think the job is too big for him. He actually manages to get us 2nd in the league. For me, I still don't know how he did it because I'm not a huge fan of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But the fact he got us 2nd, a manager that I don't really rate, is a big achievement, bro. It's a big achievement. Something that Ten Hag didn't do, Van Gaal didn't do, Moyes didn't do. But the big issue of Ole is that every single time his team appeared in a big must-win situation, they seemed to kind of evaporate, fall apart. Now, when his job was on the line, Man United became Barcelona 2011. They saved his ass so many times when it looked like he was on the brink of the sack. But when it came to taking the final step, playing in a final, playing in a semifinal, all this good progress, all this good process that we're kind of doing, let's end it in a trophy. We always fell apart. Whether it was City in the what's it called? Carabao Cup semifinal twice in a row. Whether it was Leicester in the FA Cup quarterfinal when we had a very easy run to that final. Whether it was Villarreal in the Europa League. Man United's teams under Ole always seem to just fall apart at the last hurdle. And it almost felt like it was a mental thing. And it almost felt, is it coming from the manager? But this is a manager that just came second and third. We have to give him a third year. Whether you like him or not, I, at this point, was kind of the belief that under Ole, we had a pretty firm ceiling. But, bro, he finished second and third. What are you going to do? You're going to fire him? Let's give him another year. And here, we back him heavy. We bring him Raphael Varane, a top-level center back to pair alongside Maguire, who just had a really good season the year before. We buy him Jadon Sancho, who was his long-term target. And things are feeling good, bro. 5-1 opening day to Leeds. The vibes have never been that great. Pogba 4 assists, Bruno hat-trick. We go to Wolves, we get a last-minute winner. And on that day, we announce the return of Cristiano Ronaldo. Bro, everybody is thinking, okay, third year of Ole. We just finished second and third. And we just signed Jadon Sancho, one of the highest-rated youngsters in world football. Raphael Varane, one of the highest-rated center backs in world football. And Cristiano Ronaldo. The expectation is to challenge for the league. And look, if you want to blame it on Cristiano's return kind of destabilizing the team, you can. And I think it definitely had a big part to play. But for me, the biggest thing that held Ole back from taking the step from contenders and pretenders and playing good football and process to challenging seriously and winning major honors is, in my opinion, the play style. All these teams played great in transition, but when you look at the best teams in England in the last few years, Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool, similar to what we're saying about Ten Hag's team right now, those teams have a stranglehold over games in terms of possession, in terms of controlling games. All these teams against the big guys could never do that. All we could play was transition, sit in a mid-block, and hope for the best. And yeah, we got some results here and there, but over a 38-game season, you were never going to win the league doing so. That third season, Ole tried doing it. He tried controlling games against Liverpool and City. What happened? 5-0 at home to Old Trafford, at Old Trafford against Liverpool. 2-0 at home against City, but honestly, that game could have finished 5 or 6. Got knocked out of or barely got through the Champions League group stage. We're a mess, bro. 4-1 to Watford was the final nail in the coffin. Ole got fired. And look, I see a lot of revisionism for Ole these days. I wasn't a massive fan of him at the time, but looking back at it, Ole probably exceeded expectations because I still don't think he was that great of a manager, and it's kind of proven by the fact he still hasn't gotten a job at a top level. Maybe he's holding off for his dream job, but I just don't think he's an elite manager. But for a guy who I don't consider to make it for a guy who I don't believe was an elite manager to bring United to third and second, and I actually think his team was probably going in a better direction than Ten Hag's was and Louis van Gaal's was. He's second. It's not a huge second. Let's face it. Every manager that's come on after Sir Alex has been a failure in my opinion. But now we're judging failure. What's bigger failure than the other? That's why I got Ole second, man. And then first, I got Jose. Again, not a great first. I don't think Jose's time at United was a massive success. But look, Jose won more silverware than any of the other managers. Won us the Europa League, the Carabao Cup, the Community Shield, if you want to consider that a major trophy. Took us to the FA Cup final, brought us to second. I think actually maintained a high standard at Man United at the time in terms of like, look, we had a serious team. You felt under Jose Mourinho that, yeah, this was Manchester United again. The issue of Jose, right, is that second season, right? The first season was actually a good year. I know we finished sixth in the league, but like if you look at the underlying numbers, we were actually a pretty good team. Like, the football we played under Jose in his first year was probably the best we played in his entire tenure. And it was proven by how well we did in the cup competitions. Europa League, Community Shield, Carabao Cup. We did well in those competitions. And you could tell the team was clicking. Pogba was starting to hoop. I think that was one of Pogba's best years at Man United. Rashford, Martial, Mkhitaryan that year. Zlatan, Carrick. We could tell what we needed the second season. A top-level striker, a top-level defensive midfielder, and maybe another center back. And then that team would have been ready to click. In the summer, who did we sign? We signed Lukaku. We signed Nemanja Matic. We signed Lindelof. We're thinking, okay, we're ready to go head-to-head with Manchester City for the title. And those first few weeks, 4-0 FC, we're flying, man. Martial is unreal off the bench. Rashford is starting games and playing well. Lukaku has started off like a house on fire. Pogba is running the strings from midfield. You're starting to think Man United can challenge for the league this year. And then you could just tell in the big games, Mourinho's negative tactics just came back to bite us, man. And I think that's the reason why ultimately Mourinho never succeeded at Man United. He's first on this list, but for me, he's still not a success. The approach was just too negative, man. It was just too negative. Every single big game that we approached, whether it was Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, whether it was Manchester City at Old Trafford, it was Liverpool at Anfield, we went into those games as massive underdogs when we really should have been trying to compete with those teams. Our squad was really good those days, man. That's for me. That 17-18 is probably the best squad talent-wise that we've had at United. post Sir Alex. And it was just too much negative football. Park the bus, try and lump it up to Fellaini and Lukaku, try and nick a result. If not, we'll take a draw. Meanwhile, City are playing the best football maybe the league has ever seen. They go on to be Centurions. It just wasn't good enough, man. It's good enough to finish first on this list, but for me, it's not good enough to consider a success. So yes, he's the best manager I think United have had post Sir Alex, but still, in my eyes, not good enough. And he talks about coming second with that United team is his biggest accomplishment. I completely disagree for me, bro. I completely disagree. And the nail in the coffin, that Alexis Sanchez signing, bro. When Martial and Rashford were really starting to get the grips and starting to show who they were, buying an on-the-decline Alexis Sanchez, who played the same position as both of them, completely killed any kind of rhythm Martial was building. Alexis was a massive flop. You could clearly tell from the first game he wasn't comfortable at United. And from there, it was all downhill for Jose. Still enough to make him first in my list, but not good enough regardless, bro. So let me give you guys my list again. The 5th best United manager that United have hired post Sir Alex, David Moyes. 4th, Louis van Gaal. 3rd, Erik ten Hag. 2nd, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And 1st, Jose Mourinho. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below, in the chat as well too. That's been my top 5. And yeah, see what you guys think.